Now, statement 20. Statement 20, the Vajra statement says, the two accumulations are unified, and they're unified, whether you see it from the ground perspective, the path perspective, or the fruition perspective. And so the Vajra statement says the two accumulations are unified in the ground, path, and fruition. And so these are the three contexts, or the three stages. So now some definitions. Yeah. So the two accumulations. We should be clear about these things, so that each time we see these terms, we don't have to kind of guess around or get them all mixed up, or think this is this, it's that. Whenever we say two accumulations, then it's the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom. This is the Chok-ni in Tibetan. Chok is to accumulate, and ni to Chok-ni. So it's the two accumulations of merit and the accumulations of wisdom. And then, of course, this is closely related to what's known as like the two results, which is through the accumulation of merit, then skillful means, or sometimes substituted to, because they are talking about the same thing, compassion, and the perfection of like wisdom. And those being sometimes also called the two wings of enlightenment. So two accumulations is a little slightly different emphasis. And the emphasis here is like when we accumulate, when we gather, when we give rise to, when we create, what are we creating? We need to create these two things. We need to create merit, bring merit into existence, and bring wisdom into existence. Particularly with regards to ourselves, we need to bring these two things into existence. So this statement is saying that at all times, whether now, then the second technical term here is the ground, the path, and the fruit, or the result. So these are the three contexts. And you can look at it from the question of the ground, meaning what are we working with? What is the basis? The path is the process of waking up. And then the fruition, or the result, is the result of having woken up. Right? What are we waking up? What are we becoming awakened and enlightened? Like, what is the basis of this awakening, of this enlightenment, of this waking up? That is the ground. And then what is the process? Well, the process are, the process that we have to go through. The path, we call it, poetically, the path. Then the fruition, or the result. So these three are the other technical terms here. So it says the two accumulations are unified. They are united inseparably. And you should understand this, and you should engage in these two accumulations inseparable, whether on the ground level, on the path or process level, or the fruition level. So this statement, this particular Vajra statement, is said in response to these ideas that certain practices are the accumulation of merit. Certain other practices are the accumulation of wisdom. Yes, of course. You will find passages like that in the sutras, and then especially in the commentaries that would identify and say, oh, these are the practices of accumulating merit. Oh, these are practices that accumulate wisdom. But once again, surprise, surprise, or no surprise at all, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, okay, fine, if you have, if to help you see more clearly about certain things, you want to divide things up like that. But really, what you should understand is these two accumulations cannot be done separately. Merit is only merit if wisdom is involved. Wisdom is only wisdom if merit is involved. It cannot be separated like that, right? In a rigid way. Oh, these are practices of accumulating merit. Oh, these are practices of accumulating wisdom. If you are doing it that way, then this only has a semblance of merit. This only has a semblance of wisdom. This only looks like merit. This only looks like wisdom. They're not really the two accumulations that we are talking about, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom. So in the commentaries, in the old commentaries, it even brings up, hey, what about Shantideva, Bodhisattva? When you get to the chapter on wisdom, chapter 9, it says, at the beginning, somewhere there, it says, and all of this, referring to everything that came before that, and all of this, the Buddha taught for the sake of wisdom. The topic of chapter 9. So that has led people into, in a very rigid way, saying, oh, the first 5 paramitas, they are about the accumulation of merit. Then the paramita of wisdom is about the accumulation of wisdom. So to divide it that way. Or sometimes they say the first 3 paramitas, the paramita of giving, the paramita of disciplined conduct, and the paramita of patience. They say, oh, that is the accumulation of merit. Then they say the paramita of meditation and the paramita of wisdom is the accumulation of wisdom. Then they say the paramita of joyful effort applies to both, needed in both. So there are these kinds of divisions for sure. In the treatises, especially in the commentarial works written by Indian masters, they do divide things in this way. But here what Kyobpa wants to say is, if you understand more deeply, if you look at it more carefully, you'll see that in fact, these two accumulations have always been inseparable. So when he talks about how these two are inseparable from, you can see that they're inseparable from at the ground level. There, what he means is, in fact, these two accumulations, they are not something artificial that the Buddha taught us to engage in, but rather, even on the ground level, meaning on the Buddha nature level, they already exist there. So this is what it actually is getting us to understand. Because there will be some people will also say, this idea of this category of two accumulations, they are only path language. They are not ground language. They are not vocabulary for the ground, and they are not vocabulary for the result. They say the idea of accumulating meaning you have to create, you have to increase, necessarily is only makes sense, only relevant on the path level when you are practicing on the process level, right? So they say, makes no sense to talk about it in the ground level, makes no sense to talk about it in the result level. Again, no surprise, Kyobpa Rinpoche will say, what the Buddha gave on the path, what the Buddha gave for us to practice on the path during the process of waking up is based on principles or realities that already exist in a natural way. And so that's the ground level. And so this shows us, Kyobpa Rinpoche's emphasis on how the practices that we engage in, even though, it says that these are not fixed because the Buddha gave them based on the needs of sentient beings, and so the Buddhas have devised, right, these practices as situational, as necessary to the situation, to the individual. The Buddha gave the methods, so the methods are to be practiced, right? Then there's a sense that these methods, eventually you don't need them anymore, you are already Buddhas. And so there's definitely emphasis on how all the 84,000 dharmas, methods given on the path level, they are based on the situation of sentient beings. But if we go too far with that idea, right, then we might think, these practices don't have a basis in reality. They're simply like devices that the Buddha created. That somehow they are devices the Buddha created, which of course we agree. But here's Kyobpa's point. These devices that the Buddhas created are based on the reality. Are based on reality. It's not that these devices were created with no basis in reality. In fact, these devices, these methods, these practices, they are based on the way things are, how the way things are. And so if then, in this context, we talk about the two accumulations on the path level, then this practice of giving rise to merit, giving rise to wisdom, is related to how, on the ground level, on the Buddha nature level, these two things are somehow already there. And when the process is completed and we arrive at the result at the end, these two things become fully accomplished because they are already innate to us. So deeper implications to this is also, you could say, Kyobpa Rinpoche don't want us to make the mistake of thinking that the practices that we do again, right, is merely, and it's fashionable today actually, more than merely a means to an end. The path is just a means to an end. You can just, abandon this, and then you're there. Like related to this is the idea. Sometimes we think, oh, why do you meditate? You meditate in order to become Buddha. Then when you're Buddha, do you need to meditate? Oh, no need anymore. Right? Oh, why do you keep disciplined conduct? Oh, in order to get enlightened. Oh, now that you're enlightened, is disciplined conduct important? Oh, no. You're enlightened. So our wild side, if we have that, some of us more on the surface, the wild side, some of us hidden more below. Then we love, right, these stories of the Mahasiddhas, right? Oh, look, they're enlightened. They do whatever they want, I want to be like that. But if you look at the biography of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the disciplined conduct is not a means to an end. The disciplined conduct that he prescribed, recommended to his followers, is based on how an awakened one would conduct him or herself, because that's the natural state. The biography of the Buddha will say, every morning when the Buddha wakes up, he begins meditation. He lets his mind rest in the nature of reality. And then later, before going out to collect food, he uses his wisdom eye to survey the world to see, who in his vicinity is ready and ripe to wake up. And that day he will reach out to them. Then he comes back, he eats his lunch, then he rests, and then again he wakes up from the rest, then he stays in a state of meditation. So why do Buddhas meditate? Because the meditative mind, so to say, is the natural state of Buddhas. It's not just a method to get somewhere. The somewhere that you get to is directly related to the method that you're using to get there. It's just that when some sutra or some text like that say, oh, Buddhas don't meditate, meaning they don't have to make effort to meditate anymore because they are naturally in the meditative state. And it says, oh, Buddhas don't accumulate merit anymore. It's not that Buddhas literally don't accumulate merit anymore. There's no more effort and contrivance in, oh, I need to accumulate merit. The things that they do, the things that they say, the things that they feel are naturally growing merit, growing wisdom. No more effort necessary. Path level, various degrees of effort is necessary. Ground level, nature of our minds are complete with Buddha qualities. That's merit. Empty, unhindered, not without fixity, that is wisdom. Whether realized or not, Buddha qualities are there. Whether realized or not, empty, without essence, wisdom. So this statement, Kyobpa Rinpoche is reminding us that of all these points, many really interesting and important points in this one statement like this. Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. When one has determined that the ground is the unity of the absolute space and wisdom, One practices the path of the two accumulations in unity and attains the fruition of the two kayas in unity. So basically here, in his own way, he's saying what I just took a lot of time and words to say. When you have determined, when you can see on the ground, in the Buddha nature state, there's the unity of space and wisdom, and then one practices the path of the two accumulations of merit and wisdom in unity, then you attain the fruition whereby the two kayas. Normally you say, wait, I thought there are three. Yes, but two puts Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya together, and so then they're called Rupakaya, form body, and reality body, Dharmakaya. So two kayas means that. Therefore, the two accumulations are unified in the ground, path, and fruition. Jigten Sumgon instructed us to understand this and then practice accordingly. So, not much. He didn't have much to say here. Then, the next statement. It is profound when all the higher and lower persons always choose a high support for the accumulation of merit. The author, the translator said, the term that I translate as support is often translated as field of merit. So I don't know why they chose support instead of field. Xing. Field is good, I think. But translator don't give us a reason why they say I prefer support instead of field. And there's a reason why field is chosen, Xing. Because like the field that you plant, and then things grow. So Buddha actually gave that analogy. So these are fields, the fields of merit. In fact, donation boxes, in like Chinese monasteries and nunneries, Buddhist places, donation boxes. The box there, the words there, it says, it's not so crude, they don't say donation, they don't say give us money. The donation box, it calls, this is the box of the field of merit. So when you put your offerings there, you are planting, you're growing merit. So they call it, this is the box of the field of merit. Then particularly, we say the monastic Sangha is a field of merit, because whatever you put it there, it will grow. Then your parents, they are a field of merit. Whatever you put there grows. Kids, no, they're not a field of merit. They only take from the field. Right? Mom, where's food? Mom, there's no more. Cereal. Mom, there's no more. But parents are a field of merit. Monastic Sangha, particularly those who have chosen to live their life simply, to focus on Dharma, they are a field of merit. So statement 21, I've looked at this translation. It's a little strange. It's a little, it says, it is profound when all the higher and lower persons always choose a high support. Professor Zobich, his translation of this statement, whether one has high or low ability, it is a profound vital point to select the higher field of merit. So here it's saying, when we engage in merit, in growing of merit, we need to be discerning, where to plant these seeds. Using the analogy of a farmer, if you're going to use this precious seed, now seeds are kind of, like those of us, especially if we don't do agriculture, if we don't do gardening, and then also an abundance of seed, you go to the store and you buy one pack, so cheap, so we don't think much, But there was a Dharma friend that house sat for me years back, and she helped me with my garden here, and she was taking, from the bag, like two seeds into one hole, 2 seeds into one hole. And then I was like, and she's like, oh yeah, seeds are very precious. She said, I come from the old country, in Europe, and we don't just put in, cover, right? So these seeds are, and if you don't collect enough seed, right, this season at the end, right, next season you'll be hungry, So where you plant your seeds, very important. So this is what it's saying. In what kind of field you put down these seeds would determine what kind of returns you're going to get. Now, I know. Now, this is very, like, people are like, oh, I don't like this idea. During our Bardo teachings, I said, merit, many Westerners have a difficult idea with merit. Because the minute you talk about merit, then they think about issues of like, am I worthy or not worthy? And then when they hear statements like, oh, you don't have enough merit, then makes them feel bad. It's like, oh, you say I don't have enough merit. Because then it brings up this idea of like, you're not a good person. We tend to think merit is about that as well, but it's not, right? And then this idea further here, this statement, like you have to choose carefully where you plant these seeds. In other words, it's saying you have to, be discerning in where you invest. Where you invest, which field you plant. And here it's about merit. It's not about the discussion doesn't cover so much about wisdom, but more about merit. So it says, always choose a higher field of merit to plant these seeds. Now, let's look at the commentary first. So here, Khenpo Kunpal quotes this compendium of essentials, a commentary work. Especially make offerings to supports, such as the Buddhas, to fields. Again, this particular translator prefers support. I don't know, maybe they missed this whole concept of field, this agricultural. In Pali Sanskrit, it's field, and it's an agricultural metaphor. Especially make offerings to fields such as the Buddhas. Making offerings to 2,000 common people is like offering to one pure Brahmin. 2,000 Brahmins are completely equal to one fully ordained monk. 2,000 fully ordained monks are equal to one who is unstained by the desire realm. 2,000 who are unstained by the desire realm are equal to one who has the wisdom of the lack of self. 2,000 with wisdom should be considered equal to one Vajra master. A wise one should always make offerings having understood the supports, the fields for these offerings in this way. A yogi should plant seeds in a good field. when practicing the essential Dharma field. So this is an idea, that if you plant your field in this higher field, the returns are greater. And of course, why you need the return to be greater? Well, why even plant any seed, using that analogy, if you're not interested in the returns? So there's no debate there. Even if you're uncomfortable with the idea, well, you need to work with that idea, get yourself over it, because I get it. So many of us are like, oh, well, I started spiritual practice because I don't want to think about growing anymore. I just want to relax. I don't like this idea. But if merit is not growing, then probably demerit is growing. It's skillful actions or non-skillful actions, right? So choose the field of merit carefully. Right? Now, in the early commentaries, they don't just say this. So this is where it gets really interesting. In the early commentaries, they get into this discussion where it says, the really, really skillful ones, with this understanding, can then go about helping sentient beings in a very skillful way. Which is, this idea, this principle doesn't mean, oh, I will only give to Buddhas. I will only give to Vajra masters. I will only give to fully ordained, and ordinary people, a hungry dog, oh, not much merit there. I'm not planting any seeds there. See, this is one consequence of that idea. And yes, it has become like this, where Buddhism is traditional. Sometimes, lots of people will give money to build a temple, to build another Buddha statue, to build another stupa, because they say, well, it says, to make offerings to that, greater merit. Then when you say, oh, you want to give money to feed the hungry? I don't know. You want to, give money to start a school, to build a hospital? Yeah, here, $10. But then to build a big Buddha statue, yes, here, 10,000. And that's when that concept, that principle has been misused, misunderstood, misapplied. So in these early commentaries, it says, no, when you understand this principle, then what you should do is this. And so it links this up with the practice of creation stage, deity yoga. It says, when you train in, so this is where the wisdom piece comes in, even though the discussion is mostly about merit, accumulation of merit, this is when the accumulation of wisdom comes in. If you train to perceive all beings as Buddhas, as your Vajra master, your guru. Then when you offer to them, when you plant the seeds of merit there, it will grow accordingly. In other words, if you look down on others, then whatever merit that you plant, whatever seeds of merit that you plant, the result will also be small. So it goes back to, intention. Likewise, if the motivation is only for my own, then the seeds that you plant there, it will grow in a limited way. But if you plant it, this is for the good of many, for the Buddhahood of all beings, the result that it grows will also be great. Yes, so this Vajra statement, yes, at the main focus of this Vajra statement, because this Vajra statement apparently was said with regards to these debates, so to say, right? These differences of opinions about how, what are greater fields of merit, what are lesser fields of merit, and who does what and how, things like that. So let's see. People claim that due to the particulars of Mahayana and Hinayana, there's a difference as to the fields where one gathers accumulations. So then here, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, it has nothing to do with Mahayana, Hinayana. It says, no, it's not like that. It has to do with So here in the commentary it says, if one can find only an inferior field of merit, so to say, right, like in that list, ordinary people rather than a pure Brahmin, a pure Brahmin rather than a fully ordained monk. If one can find only an inferior field of merit, one can transform this field of merit through your view, your perception. So this tells the story of like in the past, the Bodhisattva has become an elephant, and then the story of, I don't know, some of you might remember, these hunters that are trying to hunt this very special elephant to take the elephant's tusk. And there's a magical elephant in some forest, and everyone is trying to hunt this elephant. Then it is said that in this story, it said that somebody figured out, noticed, whenever monks, whenever this elephant whenever this elephant see monks, it will come and approach them. Yes. So these hunters heard this, realized this. So what did they do? They dressed themselves up as monks. And then they got the elephant. So it's said that in this case, this elephant accumulated merit even as it died, offering, thinking that. So even when it was shot, and finally realized, these are not monks. These are those terrible hunters that are trying to kill me. But it said that in that moment, this elephant bodhisattva could transform and say, but I'm going to see them as monks. And with my death, my tusk that they were after, I'm going to see them as an offering to the monks. And it said that in that way, this elephant bodhisattva gained tremendous merit that led to a higher rebirth. And so this statement, although on the surface it sounds like, oh, give to your Vajra master, don't give to these other people. It's not that. It's saying, it is related to the last statement, that accumulation of merit should always be together with wisdom. Yeah, so translate to our modern times, where the need is great, we give to that. But when we give, we have to transform our perception of who we're giving to and why we're giving. Give out of bodhicitta. Who to give? Give to Buddhas. Give to our guru. But now our guru has appeared in the form of this hospital. Our guru, well, maybe not hospitals. Hospitals make too much money, right? Now all these hospitals have been privatized. We give to the animal rescue effort. We give to the food bank, and think, I'm making offerings to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Then, of course, this is also, we should not forget, yes, we give to our Dharma center. Even if your local Dharma center may not be what you're most connected with now, but recognize that in the area that you live, that is the main way other people will connect to the Dharma. And understanding how helpful Dharma can be, you give. You support your local Dharma center. Even if the local Dharma center, you don't have much connection. But if you see that, oh, actually, they are making effort. They are needing help to reach more people with the Dharma. We support. Don't make it into, nothing for me. I don't have meaning. Then you missed an opportunity, You miss what's important. We say so much, for the benefit of all beings, but we don't know how to benefit beings. Even when we have opportunity to benefit beings, we are turning it back to our very limited view. Then it's not going to work, Yeah. The next three statements, you can say they come as a group. This is about, so here, these two statements, it's about how to accumulate merit, where to invest merit in. The next three has to do with how to dedicate. Some very interesting points there too. Like the next statement, it says, basically the next statement is can be translated as, it can be skillful to take possession of everything, even the things that don't belong to you, mentally take possession of them, and then offer them. And then you say, wait, I thought Buddha says, don't grasp, But here, self-grasping becomes a skillful method. Yeah, elsewhere we all know, Kyobpa Rinpoche always talk about, causes of suffering always cause suffering. Causes of happiness always cause happiness. Then we might think, self-grasping is a cause of suffering, always producing suffering. Not so rigid. You can see elsewhere, he finds a way for us to work with our self-grasping. So, not so rigid. Anyway, we'll get to that statement tomorrow. And today we end here.